I'm constantly being asked now what I should do about the fact that my emails have been hacked. So if your business isn't doing a lot more than it was doing 6, 12 months, 2 years ago around cybersecurity, you are in extreme risk of losing the business to a cybersecurity incident. With AI coming in now, it's getting easier and easier and easier to impersonate companies, to hack into their systems, to exfiltrate, steal their data, and then worst of all, ransomware you. So they encrypt all your machines and say, if you don't pay us, we've got all your customers' data and suppliers' data, so you need to pay us or you can't use your IT, and we'll then contact your customers and suppliers and tell them we've stolen your data. Now, there's nothing that's 100%, but there's a vast amount that can be done to prevent this impacting on your business. So let's just go through the basics, and you can ask your IT team if they're doing this stuff, because if they're not doing it or they need help, I think that's the thing is people go, oh, well, this is an IT problem. Let me like draw the line there. This is a management issue, okay? This is a problem management needs to address. It's not a problem for IT to fix. It's the problem that the board of directors or the owners need to say, we need to draw a line here. We need to understand about the risk. And at the moment, a lot of it's tick box exercise, like cyber essentials, which is the bare minimum that you need to meet. But many companies don't meet it and they don't understand the risk. So laying out, you could lose the business, okay? You could lose the business. If you've already been ransomwared or you've already had a cybersecurity incident recently, you know how painful, expensive and time-consuming it can be. And the idea is that we'll just buy new computers, we'll be up and running in a few days. It's not going to happen. The average downtime from a ransomware attack is around 2 weeks. Average cost per employee to recover is about £8,000. So it's extremely expensive. And some of the solutions I'm proposing, well, a baseline is you should be spending around £40 a month per staff member on cyber. And if you're not spending that, and I know businesses that are only been spending £1 a month on cyber, you're going to go out of business. Sort it out, okay? Right, and now I'm going to dig into some of the technologies that you need. You don't have to watch this because your IT team should be doing this, but you can ask the questions, okay? The first thing we need to have is security awareness training. What is that? Every month, everyone in your organization should be doing a 3 to 5 minute training course on something around cyber, like not scanning QR codes, using multi-factor authentication, securing your social media. And then as well as that, they should be receiving these fake phishing emails to try to get them to click on stuff. This is not to catch people out. This is not an us and them thing. It's to train them to recognize the risk. And I know it works. There's 2 companies I speak to occasionally. I work on their service desks, and there's a sea of difference. The one that's doing cyber awareness training is like, who are you? I'm not sure about this. I'm going to call you back. The other one is like, yeah, of course I'll give you my password. Not a problem. So you need to be doing security awareness training. The second thing you need is something called EDR. There's various acronyms around this, EDR, XER. The point is, what it is somebody somewhere in the world is monitoring your system 24/7. If there's an incident, they will hopefully notice and block it. These aren't particularly expensive. Again, a few pounds a month. Once you've got those 2 things in place, then we need to really look at compliance and process. So do you have a process for resetting users' passwords, for how often people change their passwords, creating strong passwords? Do you have a process for buying and disposing of equipment? Are you following like kind of eventually ISO 27001 standards for like life cycle management? Is what we're aiming for. But are you literally letting people take their computers home with them when you finish with them with all your customers' data on them? People are doing this today. They're insane. Then we need to look at some of the more sophisticated tools. So the idea, by the way, that just having some antivirus is going to fix this, it isn't. You need to have some kind of privilege escalation management tool. What that does is it allows the staff, like say you want to install a printer, it allows the IT guys to go, yeah, that's fine, or go, I'm not sure about this, we need to have a conversation. What that means is that people can get on with their day and they're not waiting for IT to remote into their computer and install something. And there are still plenty of IT support companies out there that aren't very proactive, and all they do really is fix people's Outlook and printers when they break. And that's just not going to cut it in 2025. You need that proactive support. What's nice about it is that we can add that on to your existing IT. So you don't need to change. If you've got an in-house team or an IT support company you're really happy with, we'll work with them to make sure it happens. So whether I'm providing managed IT services or managed cyber, or I'm your IT part-time director, the same thing applies, that you don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We can make it work with what you've got. And then a lot of this stuff now is around compliance. So are you securing the Office 365 properly? If you're using that, most businesses are. There's so much stuff you can do. Like, for example, I had an incident just last week where somebody sent 15,000 malicious emails in the space of about 5 minutes. Now, for our tenants, we've limited it so they can only send a few hundred emails a day. We only did that recently because it was a feature that was recently added. But why would you not enable that? Because it creates friction, and IT wants to maintain the status quo. They don't want to deal with the friction. So in terms of cyber, that's why it has to be a business decision, not an IT decision, because IT wants it simple. Everyone wants the IT just to work. But the problem that you have is with cyber is just working till the day that it doesn't. And then you don't have a business anymore. And I've seen these incidents, and it's horrible. It really is horrible. So let's try not to have that happen to your business, okay? So you need to be asking questions like, are we hardening it? What's our Microsoft security score is a great question to ask. Do we have a process for detecting if our 365 account is hacked? Now, we used to just recommend you use multi-factor authentication. That doesn't really work anymore. Hackers have got around it in various different ways. So we need to move things on. We need to make sure people are signed in and you have the right licenses. For example, people used to use just Microsoft Business Standard, but now if you want to stay safe, you've got to use Microsoft Business Premium or above in a small business. And what you can do for your like light workers, we do have a program for that as well. We use Business Basic for them, but we really lock down what they can do. And this is the point, is that a lot of these settings don't impact the user at all. They just make it more secure. And you should have a list of the applications that you're allowed to install. And then if you want to install new ones, it should go through some kind of simple change management process. Now, in a company with 6-7 people, you're not going to want to overcomplicate this. So part of managing this is to make sure, are we keeping things up to date? Are things being managed? And again, like when I first started, we go out to see people, we run Windows Update, make sure it was working properly. That's ridiculous now. We want the updates to be running automatically. If they're not working, we want to jump on it and fix it, and we want to know about that. So that's just a few things you can do to get started. And then obviously we can then have a security operations center that's running 24/7. We can have SIEM, which ingests all the logs from your devices so we can try and find stuff where there's a problem. And we've got software that can run on top of 365 that monitors it. And so if you log in Chicago and Edinburgh within 5 minutes of each other, it will realize that that's probably not correct and it will block your account. Or we've got rules. So, for example, if you created an email rule that's obviously being created by a hacker, we just block you from your email till we get it fixed. But there's a lot of stuff, and it's changing constantly. It's a constant fight, and it's going to get worse. And we've got to stay on top of this stuff. We've got to have a process, and we've got to be moving much, much more quickly than we have in the past. So if that sounds helpful, that sounds you want something to discuss with me more, I'm more than happy to jump on a call, go through where you're at, give you a list of questions to ask. If that's helpful, there should be a link below of some questions you can ask your IT team. But yeah, do reach out to me. More than happy to try and stop you being the next victim, because after all, it's going to be a lot cheaper, like 50 times cheaper to get it done in advance of dealing with an incident. And there is evidence that those people that are hacked, if they've got good security incident plan, if they've got a process in place, if they've worked with their suppliers and their vendors and their IT team and they know what they're doing, they can recover quicker, and it has less of an impact on the business because they've locked things down, they've controlled who's got access to the data, they've controlled what's happening, and they've stopped it in its tracks. Hope that helps. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope I can help you and hope that was useful. Do let us know what you think in the comments, and talk to you soon. Cheers, bye-bye.